Who's at the Table is an engaging show for the audience to hear the courageous stories of women veterans. Often, women veterans aren't asked to be in boardroom discussions, but we deserve to be at the table. Business leaders should want us there because we are innovators, creators, entrepreneurs, critical thinkers, mission-driven, and vital to their success.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming to the reunion show of season 1 of Who's at the Table. My name is Sharissa Jackson. I am the creator and founder of Who's at the Table. It was important for me to create a sisterhood around a table where we get to tell our stories. And these beautiful women have come back to let's recap what we talked about throughout their interviews. And it's so important to me that they're here. So without further ado, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for allowing me into your lives for that hour. And I know, Portia, we were more than an hour, but for your to be in your lives for that small period of time, it was very important to me that you guys tell your stories. It was very important to me that you share your stories and that your stories were heard. I must say each and every one of your episodes was greater than 4.5 thousand views. So there were a lot of people out there that came and viewed your stories. And Vets did a wonderful job of actually re-airing your stories. So your stories keep continuing to be told, to be aired out there. And I continue to suggest to you to push it out there as well to your network. You deserve to have your stories heard. And that's the main reason why I created the table. So thank you all so much for letting me into your lives.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So the purpose of this reunion show is not so we can all get together and have a party, but it's really for us to talk about what we learned from the show. Some of the things that we probably didn't even think about while others were talking about their stories. But this is an opportunity for us to recap, talk about some golden nuggets that we learned from each other's show, talk about things that we didn't get a chance to talk about because that hour goes by really, really fast. And to also bring up topics that we didn't get a chance to talk about. So let's all just have a conversation. We're all around the table today. It's not just about one person's story. It's about all of our stories collectively. So what we're going to do first is I thank you in honor of all 10 guests. I want to introduce everybody who's here as well as those who are not here and just thank them individually. So we'll start with our very first guest, and that was none other than Ms. Portia Williams down there at the bottom. Thank you, Ms. Portia. Thanks for coming to the reunion show.
Thanks for having me.
And what was the impact of Who's at the Table for you, dear?
Well, I got a lot of women veterans reached out to me afterwards, and just telling me how I inspired them, and even some of the people here today, they was like, yeah, we watched Portia's episode, and we was like, yes, I know I have to get on there, and I'm just so excited to be able to, open up the show and be able to be vulnerable and tell my story and help others to be able to tell theirs, because that's the most important thing that we have, to be able to help the next generation. So
and you started off the show strong, Portia. I was like, oh my God, why did I put Portia first? But you really did open up the show because a lot of people followed your show because they were like, what is this Who's at the Table thing, right? And so because you were so open, so vulnerable, and creating that atmosphere, I think that's what allowed the other guests to be, open to their stories and telling their stories to me. So thank you for being that very first guest. And then I had to think, who's going to follow Portia's story? And then I found the wonderful, the beautiful, the powerful Miss Erin Cobb down there at the bottom to follow Miss Portia. Hey, Erin, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm happy to be here and actually get a chance to talk to these ladies. I watched all their stories. I'm so impressed.
Oh my God, your story. How did that impact you being on the show?
It was really interesting. I've told my story, lots of times, and the strangest thing were people that I was close to that told things that they'd never heard before. So you kind of think you're telling the same thing over and over again, but you're not. And, I just hope that, women out there, I gave them some strength to get away from being in bad situations and to understand that, abuse, while it may not be physical, it still exists. It still is harmful, and it can go that way. So just hope it open some ladies' eyes or men to get them out of bad situations.
Very good. And so I followed your show with Heather Penny, and she couldn't be here today. And she, of course, was the 9/11 pilot that had the potential to go and shoot down the terrorist airplane on 9/11. And then following Ms. Heather Penny was none other than the wonderful, the awesome, the recently retired Sergeant Major Robin Fortner. Hello, ma'am. How are you? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Charissa. I appreciate it. It's been great. It's glad to be here with the other ladies. Just like they were saying, you see each other on just the actual show. So to see each other now live and get to speak to them is a great opportunity. Thanks for having us.
And how did the show impact your life?
Same. I mean, you get so many people who reach out, or pull something from the show that you thought everyone already knew already. But the fact that they didn't know it, I'm with you, Erin. It's like, okay, we need to keep saying the stories over and over again because you never know who's listening. But I think the biggest impact is the surprise you did is with Kayla. To see that young girl flourish and use the CPR that we dedicated to her daily in what she was doing at the Naval Academy. And then she hits me up on my cell phone. I'm like, wow, okay, you talk about turning the torch over, as I retire, she's gonna make some waves. So happy to see her continue to do it, her part, but also to be a part of that journey.
And thank you for helping me with that surprise. I know that was kind of impromptu. I'm like, Robin, this is what I'm thinking. You was like, yes, do it. Let's do it. For her mom to even reach out to me, it was like, oh my God, thanks for dedicating that show to Kayla. And for her to just start her Naval Academy journey, that was important for me to do that. So thank you for wanting to participate. And we got it done at the end. And it was pretty sweet.
We got it in.
So following you was Kim Bailey, and I'm sure you all saw her story. It was about military sexual trauma. She was very vulnerable in telling her story. She was also an advocate for Vanessa Gillen's story, and she was out here advocating for her and justice for Vanessa. After that was Ms. Janelle Lampkin, whose daughter actually took her life back in March of this year, and our prayers go out to Janelle and her family. Following her was Ms. Vanessa Mahan, who can't make it here today either because of work responsibilities, but she talked about her military sexual trauma while also being an F-15 pilot on active duty. Then came the wonderful, the vivacious, the beautiful Ms. Denitra Hampton in episode number 8. Hi, Denitra, how are you?
Hi, it's wonderful to see you again. I said that earlier, but it really is. We go way back. I mentioned that in our interview, and it was so impactful for me because seeing everyone and hearing their stories, it was empowering to me because I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So to hear how everyone has been able to transition, number one, and then survive that transition, number two, is even more powerful. So for me as a veteran and as a storyteller, it was just all the way around, just empowering. Mm-hmm. So kudos to all of you. And I can't tell you how much I have been appreciative of Charissa for introducing this virtual meeting. So thank you all.
Oh, Denitra, you're going to make me cry. I'm not going to cry yet now. I cry at the end, but thank you so much for that.
I ain't going to preach today.
You preached in your interview, and we don't have time to be sending around the collection plate today, okay?
My students said, Miss Hampton, you was preaching. I said, I know.
You was preaching, and we'll get into some of that here in a minute because what happened from your show was everybody kept asking about the process. What was that process that Denitra was talking about? So that's one of the questions we'll get to for you as we recap the show. And following Ms. Denitra was none other than the active duty Air Force. Beautiful spirit up there at the top, Ms. Lakedra Houston. How are you, dear?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's great seeing your beautiful face. And so how has the show impacted your life?
Wow. It's like same thing as everybody's saying. You look at the show and it puts you back in that space and you're like, oh my God, I've overcame so much. And then you listen to all the other ladies and it just encourages you to keep on sharing your story. And then also people have been reaching out to me as well. So I just think it just gave me that courage to keep on pushing and keep on fighting. So it was good. It was really good.
Wonderful. And you're still on active duty, and you're due to retire when?
Woo! January 2022.
Yeah.
You got to hang in there for a few more, okay?
Yes, I do.
We need you out there. And last but not least was Miss Jillian Bullock. She couldn't make it here today. Of course, if you watched her show, she is in pre-production of multiple movies, one of which, 22, I will be helping her with that particular movie. And she called just a couple of minutes prior to the show, and she tripped over her cat, and so now she's in the ER. Hopefully not a broken foot or a broken ankle, but I know she would have been here had it not been for that emergency. So again, thank you all for showing up, and showing out is what's going to happen here today. So, so let's get into Portia. We'll start with you. I know you followed all of the other stories. What was one golden nugget that you took from any particular interview that you heard?
Just say one golden nugget?
Yes. We have a lot of women here. We'll be here all day.
I got pages and stuff. Wait,
Okay, a couple golden nuggets.
Okay, well, listen, this is what I will say.
Okay.
I will say that all of the ladies were so amazing, and all of the different stories were just amazing, from Robin's RBF face and being able to manage that, but, be business and fierce, but yet approachable. I picked up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron had me crying because I can relate to being in that situation with, the domestic violence and the man who feels like nobody will ever love you the way that they did. It was so much. Heather and her mission, and just everybody, Denitra, and the value of the process. I can't wait to hear her talk about it, because I know, because the process is what got us to where we are today. But to get through that, oh my goodness, it's something else. It's so many different. Janelle, my heart is with her, and I'm sending prayers, and I'm going to send support and resources, and we're going to wrap that sister in as much love as we can give her, and we're going to love her and let her know that she is valuable. My heart is with her. And Lakedra, who looks 18, but been in for 18 years. But, it was her nuggets of how the women compete with each other as opposed to empowering one another, and her just being there, everybody's process, and the being there to help others. It was just so many. So I have a lot, but I just want to say that I am grateful, and I have learned, and I love to continue learning and growing. And so I appreciate you ladies so much.
And Aaron, how about you? What are some golden nuggets or some things that you took away from some of these women's interviews? I can't hear you, Aaron. Aaron, can't hear you.
Am I on mute?
Yeah, you were.
That was weird. You can hear me now?
Yeah, can you turn it up a little louder?
We'll try.
Okay. There we go.
The strength that these women have, and the things they have to endure, and how much every day men impact our existence for everyone. It doesn't matter what group you're in. It doesn't matter what you look like, and how much of our military experience was shaped by that. But more than that, it's just the strength of the women here to get through everything that they've gotten through, and to succeed and to thrive and to find their process. It's just amazing.
Awesome. And how have you grown since your interview?
Well, it's just made me more dedicated to the cause, and more willing to get involved, and recognize that, well, I can't always physically get involved, which none of us can with the going through a little COVID thing, just to make sure that I'm there and that I can really support other women, because that's the crucial takeaway. We have to lift each other up.
Yeah. And Robin, man, you came out strong. I mean, your interview was the first one we did on the Zoom platform, and you had so many points in your hour and 15-minute interview. What was some of the things that you felt was the most important thing you wanted to get across in that interview?
Yeah, I think, the whole notion of just empowering and not being afraid to be at the table. I think we started off strong, Sharissa, just by saying, I'm here because I deserve to be here. And I think when we get past that and we can keep acknowledging that, the rest will come. You may feel butterflies or the fear inside, but as long as you have that approach up front and you understand I deserve to be here, I think the rest is kind of fall into place. I mean, if we just stop now and just relax, take a breath, and just talk, just like you say for every interview, it's like many times we deserve to be there, not often asked.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be there. So sometimes if representation is not there, then many people will kind of throttle backwards and think, maybe I'm not good enough. But I just wanted to throw away that notion, be aggressive, just take that seat, and even if you ain't got it all together, it's okay. Yeah. They don't have it all together either, right? So, but once we just open our mouths, there's so much value, power, and, intelligence that come out of many women veterans, period, or just women, period. That I think we just got to really take a hold of that and own it. There's a meme on my page, just own that, and I think that's just kind of how I try to go through my years in the Marine Corps is just, I may not have it all, but I just want to go in there and own it. And then everything else just seem to fall into place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Denitra, what were some of the things that you took from some of these other interviews that really touched your heart?
I'm going to tell you, I was really locked into Lakedra. And I hope I said her name right. But, when you interviewed her, it wasn't just so much as the topic of what she was saying, because, again, we've heard these stories. And I think a lot of time us veteran women, a lot of people attach this particular trauma to us when we have so much more to offer. But Lakedra, when I listened to her story, you could actually see the authenticity. You could see the survivorship of that story. And I think because, I'm a storyteller by heart, and I always know that what your audience feels is who you are internally. And I got that from her. And when she said, as women, we don't necessarily always support each other, and we have to do that more. Because, it's one thing to say that and post all this stuff on social media, but it's another thing to actually walk that talk. And you can do that in so many different ways. You can, this is one way. I think this is an amazing way of supporting each other because, you brought this platform and allowed everyone to share these stories. But what I got from Lakedra, and it really impacted me, was that I could feel her. And anytime you can feel someone and you haven't even met them, that means there's a survivorship there. And when a person is surviving, that means next to that is thriving. And so I really, really got her stories that is more to come for her because I felt that as a person that didn't even know her. And then even, with everyone else that I listened to, I look around this little computer screen and I see not only that we are veterans connected together, we've all served in a way that most people would not even imagine and would not even dare to. So that in itself places us in a category different than a lot of people who are watching this story because we served in a way that a lot of people would not have even think about. That courage in itself makes us, we should be at the table just because of that courage. Because courage is different than having talent and all of those things. But when you have courage, there's something else. And all of these women have that. So their stories are, templates for that. Now, my students watch this. I had them come out, and take a look at a couple of things because I always try to use all of my experiences or that process as, a teaching moment. So everybody here had something very, very special, but that one particular thing was that connectivity. And we all shared together. And I got that. And that was probably the most impactful thing for me as a person who's still growing, as a person who's always a student, is that here's this connectivity. So for me, what am I going to do with that? I see 4 people here. So for me, it's about what am I going to do next to reach out to these people?
Yes.
Make sure that they see, I know you saw me on this show, but this is who I am. This is what I think that, we can offer each other. So I think that's what I most got from it all.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Lakedra, I think it's great that you follow that. I mean, how does that make you feel, how she said that?
I thought she was preaching to me. I was about to shed some tears. But it's amazing because, listen to everybody. It's amazing just to hear that feedback because I feel like I needed to hear that because I'm still in that survivor mode. And I think next to come for me is going to be greatness, you know? So all the women, it lets you know that you are not going through this alone. And it was more empowering and healing more than anything, because I listened to all of them. I'm like, man, I went through that same thing. And look at her. She's strong and she's telling her story. So to me, it felt like I should not be ashamed. Keep on fighting.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, sis.
Very nice. Very nice. And Robin, I want to come back to you for a second, because by the time we did your show, you was episode number 4, you know, the wheels were turning. I was getting some people supporting me, and you came out and man, you just knocked it out the park. Why was it important for you to be at the table?
Again, I know I was watching your show already, you know, and this the title alone. So when you said this is the first time we're going to do it differently, I knew, I said, okay, we really got to make a push here, because, you know, and I go back to everybody's individual story, and it's not just us here, but it makes me kind of think about everyone. If you just stop and think about everyone that we've been in contact with, for me, it's been 30 years, Lakeisha, 18 years, so on and so forth, right? Man, there's so much that still needs to be said, right? And I was like, wow, if we can just get the stories out there in a fashion that's not specific for, you know, complaining or that we want something from it, except for awareness and a listening ear. That was just important, not just for the women that's going to hear it, but for the men. Needs to hear it. And those, you know, who don't understand women veterans or don't understand veterans, period. So it was at a time where someone kind of reached out to me on the side. This was before you even asked me. And he was apologizing, basically. And he was like, I know that when you become a woman veteran, resources is not the same as a male veteran. And sometimes I watch my male counterparts and, you know, the things they're into, the things they see, blah, 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 blah. And it's not always at your face as a woman veteran. So he caught my attention to just reach out to some of the women veterans that I know I stood on their shoulders. I know for a fact that I've stood on their shoulders to get where I was. And I started reaching out even before the show. So when this came up, I was like, what great platform to really push, because social media is where it's at right now. I mean, it just is. So utilizing that platform for benefit and for strength and for to push our voices across all services, but across the nation, that one, we have a voice, but two, how strong it is. And I agree, when we unite, good gosh, you know, the value that comes out of that. So I'm glad I was able to help push that. Not that I have a strong social media following, but I think I had enough to kind of help push that along, where folks at least knew who I was in a credible sense. And I think that's important, you know. If I could go back, Sharissa, because you never asked me what nuggets I found. You found. I really did find so many nuggets myself, but
absolutely,
just to kind of take the focus off of me in the show. But I really watching everybody's show, and I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't always watch it the day of. I just couldn't watch it every Wednesday, but I would go back to your YouTube channel or something and watch it. And again, I think for me, the common theme kept being like pushing through pain. You know, and then I just kept saying, why do we always have to push through pain? You know, like, why is it that our stories, a lot of it is pushing through pain? And that kind of ties what I'm saying, is that many people just don't understand that there's so much pushing through pain to make it this far in the military. And again, it could be in any, choose your career, right? It could be any strong career. But for us, this is what we're talking about. And I don't want folks to think it's only the military, because it's not. It's everywhere. But for us, this is what we know. And, you know, it goes back to some of the young people I know. And that's like, man, what more can I do to help ease the pain, to help mitigate the pain? And I'm always about empowerment, education, and awareness. It's not just for us, but our male peer counterparts. You know, I sit and I go, they don't know what we go through sometimes. And I think really educating them sometimes will kind of help mitigate a lot of the things that sometimes we share just amongst ourselves.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that nugget. And I didn't mean to omit you from your nugget, but I was just I wanted the audience to know that when we made that shift, it was your interview that made that shift. We got 5.4 thousand views.
That's awesome.
We made that shift. So, and it wasn't because we had grown to that level. It was because of our new way of marketing the show and making sure people knew that Who's at the Table was about women veterans. And we really pushed it out there. And your story had so much depth to it that it continues to be watched. And so I just want the viewers to know that that switch happened when we crossed over to the Zoom platform. Now, let me tell you, now, after Portia and then Aaron came, I was like, we're on to something, because I had read about Aaron. Sherman had told me about Aaron, and I had called Aaron once, and I'm like, man, I don't know how this is going to go. I wonder how deep she's going to go. But Aaron, what was it about the show that made you go that deep? Because you took us on a ride, and I was like, oh my God, I hope she's going to be okay afterwards. So what made you feel so comfortable in disclosing all of those details that you did?
Number one, you are amazing at what you do. So I want to give you credit, Sharice, because that was part of it. But I just think I'm a real person. I mean, I swore a couple times on my Zoom, on my meeting, so I'm sorry if that offended anyone. But if my story saves people's lives or it helps anyone, I have no problem sharing the details. Because at this point, it's not about me. It's about helping other people. So, I mean, I don't have any problem doing that. I thought there might be a little hangover afterwards, but really I felt great afterwards, just to know that I put it out in the ether, and then hopefully someone will get something positive out of it.
And they did. There were so many people that reached out for that fact. You're like, oh my God, we need to make sure we stay close to Aaron, because I don't know if you've ever revealed that much information about your story to other people. And I was just like, man, that's why I kept texting you, like, you doing okay today? How are things going? Because I knew you went really, really deep, and I really appreciate that. And you showed your vulnerability on the show. But Miss Portia, let me tell you, I know you and I are good girlfriends, but you took us on a journey with your story. Particularly when you told us, and I hope you're okay with this, when you told us about not getting the help you needed, and it took you going through all of that to finally get to the VA after family, after friends, after those people that you counted on just turned their backs on you. I mean, how was it after you told that to me? How did that make you feel?
It raised a sense of awareness. I don't think that people really understand the value and the weight of their words, the people who are having suicidal ideations. And so, in fact, every time I speak, I am very careful to include that part, because you could shift a suicide intervention either way with your words, in the way in which you project onto someone else. And those things are very important, especially now. When we spoke, it was in early May. Mm-hmm. We didn't know that COVID would be as rampant as it is today, and that all of these things were going on. I am afraid to see the numbers for 2020. We'll get them in 2022. Mm-hmm. But, it is, I think it's incumbent upon us to be able to be a little nicer, to speak a little easier. Everybody is going through something. And so just to be able to share those parts of, listen, I understand what it feels like to be there and have no one there for you, but let me tell you, so.
And Ms. Denitra, let me tell you, in that process, I still get people asking, when you talk to Denitra again, she needs to just write a book about the process, because you talked about the process. I see Erin down there nodding her head, and Lakeisha. So kind of bring us to what you talked about in your interview about the process. And there was one thing that I love that you said, and we even used it in your promo. You talked about the pedigree of a woman veteran. So let's get the pedigree first, and then let's talk about this process that you were talking about.
Well, we know that pedigree is honor, courage, and commitment. We have that, and then we take that over, or we hemorrhage that over to what we do outside. And that's always to our families, that honor and courage and commitment to our families, to, our passions, because you all are, demonstrating that today. But, process and what I was talking about on my interview, it always comes for me from a spiritual standpoint, and I believe that everything happens for a reason. this connection here is for a reason. I mean, I don't think there's luck. I think that everybody meets for something. Our purpose is to figure out what that is we need to get from that interaction, because it's something there that we need to get to move forward. And we sometimes are not in spaces, or we haven't built that capacity to get it. And if we don't get it, we have to repeat that. And I believe that. So whatever this is today, we have to figure out what we were supposed to get. Is somebody saying something or doing something that's going to help us move to the next space? And that's process. And I think all of us have our own particular process, because, you know, God knows what each one of us is experiencing. And so he has, you know, placed people into our lives to educate us on how to get to that next level. Because I'm sure all of us, you know, are saying, Lord, help me. You know, I need to do this or that. And he does, but he does it in his own genius way. He doesn't do it in the way that we want him to do it. I ain't gonna preach. You know, that's process to me. And in my life, you know, whether it has been serving 22 years in the Navy, then getting out of that, it's always been my belief that if I just trusted whatever that process was I was in at that particular moment, it was going to build the capacity that I needed to be able to get to the next space, to develop all of the things I needed to be able to get to the next great space to help me thrive. And I think a lot of times us as women, particular, and I say that deliberately, us as women, we don't treasure the space that God has us in at that particular moment, because we are too busy comparing ourselves to everyone else. And we are too busy wanting to be something or live something that was never meant for us. So when we treasure what God has placed us in that particular moment, or, you know, if you don't believe in God or whatever that is, whatever it is that you believe in, the universe, if you treasure where you are now, you're going to see how powerful that is. And because only you have your own story. Nobody can duplicate who you are. It doesn't matter. So when we as women in particular learn how to trust that particular process for each of us, we will get that next best thing that's waiting for us. Because whatever is for Lakedra or Aaron is not meant for Denitra. You know, it's meant for her. But we have to trust whatever that little process is that we are currently in. And sometimes it can be, you know, a bad marriage, a bad relationship, a good relationship. And sometimes things only last a little bit, but we want it to last forever. But process is about understanding that that relationship may just be 2 days. You needed to get some from somebody for a week. But we try to keep them around for 2 years. And then they become toxic to us in our lives and all of these things. And they were never meant to be. And there we are hanging on for 2 years out of what our good things should have been. Right? Amen.
Amen. Amen. I'm over here clapping on mute and everything.
Right. I know one thing out of this thing. I got Preacher Hampton as a hashtag.
You know what, Dakisha, even before you and I started our interview, because we have, you know, a connection, you know, more so than the other women here on the show because of the work that we've done together. And, you know, we're always following each other. And I said, Denitra, you know, I'm just ready to get to the next level. And you say, Sharisa, you have to process your current space. You have to process what you're going through right now. And until you finish processing what you're going through right now, you're not going to get to that next level.
I hope I didn't say it like that.
That was, well, you did kind of say it like that. You said it in a nice way, but you still kind of said it like that.
You know, we always want to be somewhere we're not ready for.
Exactly.
You know, we always want to have something that somebody's got that don't belong to us, you know? And so I just say and I don't say this just to you all, I consider you all my friends now, but I have friends that stop by my shop all the time and say, Miss Hampton, I need a word or whatever. And I said, where you at? You know, and it could be the job or whatever. And the thing is this, you know, and I hope this is something that everybody takes from this. You have to value where the universe has you, and you have to value what it is that you have to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All of us here have something different
Mm-hmm.
that we are bringing to this table, and it's powerful in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Don't wish to be something, or you don't know what that person had to do to get there.
Exactly.
And you don't know what that person had to go through to get where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good or bad. Just because something looks good doesn't mean it is good.
Yeah.
And you may can't handle what that process was. For Aaron, I can't handle what Aaron did. Can't handle what Lakeisha did. That's why God didn't give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So be careful about what process you want.
Yeah.
You're built for your own particular process.
Exactly. And I think that's
a good thing.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I think it's a great segue into Robin, because Robin, you just in the process of retirement. So how was that word that Denidra just gave us, like she gave in her interview, how does that make you feel, and what did you get from that?
Yeah, I mean, still, as you said, still in the process. It's only been 2 weeks since the ceremony, but I'm still on active duty to 30 September, right? So still haven't really sunk in the process of what I think. Now I'm at the reflecting part, almost like you're saying, Denise, just, you know, what's next, you know, without jumping too fast, too quickly. You know, I really want to absorb the past 30 years, you know, and just like you said, reflecting, been through so much, impacted so many people, those type things. And I'm not in much of a rush. I really want to find me again, you know, taking that time to process being a Marine, you know, always going to be that Marine. But at the same time, Robin's going to come out more and more. And how she's going to come out, I think, is going to be how much time I spend, as you say, Denitra, in that process. Just processing this transition period and knowing it's okay. It's okay not to have everything figured out right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, you know, not to know exactly where I'm going to work. I'm going to work on me, right? So those things are okay, you know, and it's a little anxiety with it though, because I'm used to this, right? So I'm used to this, but I'm really forcing myself to throttle back a little bit and dwell in that processing moment. So for me, I think this is a good processing moment, you know, but I agree with you on knowing where you're at and knowing what's right for you. I think we just need to hear that sometimes, because it can get overwhelming. And I'm going to be honest, social media probably is the biggest mask of people's lives that we all engulf ourselves in, that we don't know how people get there, because they're only going to post what they want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to always post some of the things on the backside. So I think, you know, again, understanding that process, whether writing a book, whatever, whether it's spiritual, because you're right, everybody don't believe in God, but they do believe in that process, right? Whoever that's from. And I think it's healthy for every last one of us. We're talking about empowering. And if I could use the process piece of it, when we're talking about empowering women, you know, I think for us, I go back to being just comfortable in our own skin. It's like too many times we're trying to be more than what we are naturally there. So, you know, like in the military, they want us to be X, Y, Z, right? Well, sometimes we ABC, and guess what? ABC is still a mission maker, right? So that's what I mean by being more comfortable in what we bring to the table. I think understanding that helps us in that process, Anitra, if you will, you know, just being able to be comfortable with that and hearing that word that you're saying. Understand what your process is. Stop trying to be like somebody else. And once you get through with that, you'll be surprised at the rose that flourishes, or, you know, the swan that comes out of it. You know, it's really important for me to do that right now and figure out, well, who's that swan on the inside right now that's been there the entire time, but always had a uniform on maybe, or had this hair up in a bun maybe, you know, but the inside is going to always be there. And I think that for me is actually rewarding to process that right now.
And Aaron, I mean, you and the process you had to go through, you talked about on your show, you know, you were into fitness, you know, figure competitions, you know, you were weightlifting, on the stage, hopefully, and then you had your accident, you had your trauma that happened. How did you process through all of that, and where you are now?
Slowly. Everything's a process. Grief's a process. So I had to go through the process of grief, of almost grieving the the life that I had and, you know, transitioning into a new life. But I mean, I'm almost, I guess this year will be 9 years out from, you know, getting shot. So, you know, time makes everything better. But as I've said, I have a tremendous support system. And I know when to lean on people. I'm not, you know, you quickly lose your pride in that sort of scenario. And then I thought about how much I liked helping people before, and to accept their help with grace, and recognize that the people who are in your life are there because they want to be, and they want to help you, and you're not a burden. And, you know, as I got stronger, as I got, you know, more capable of doing things, you know, that's through the process. I would like to say that the grieving process is completely over and every day I'm 100% on board, but you're not. And, you know, you have those days where, you know, you need to paddle a little bit, you need to swim in it, and then you pick yourself back up and, you know, live through the next.
Awesome. Ms. Lakeitra, I know you have to drop off because you're still on active duty doing your work. So before you go, I want you to talk about, you know, your experience as being on active duty, because I know you had to hold back a little bit because you still wear that uniform, particularly when it comes to military sexual assault and things of that nature. Hopefully that didn't, you know, do anything or impact your work that you're doing currently. But how did you feel revealing all of that, knowing that you're still on active duty, wearing that uniform, and you're going back to work with other Air Force members? How did that affect you?
It affected me because a lot of people, from listening to the story, a lot of people came out as active duty.
Oh, wow.
And I think a lot of times we don't realize, we think we have this fear that, or this stigma that if we say anything while we're in this uniform, that, you know, we're going to get kicked out. And that's not the stigma. Regardless if I get kicked out or not, it needs to be stopped. This needs to be dealt with. And I think that it was the strength of me coming out and saying things, and even listening to Portia and things that she went through. And I think everybody is like understanding, like, this uniform doesn't define who we are. It does not. It's a, you know, we want to, you know, hit the 20 years, we want to retire. But sometimes, you know, when she talks about the process, Denitra, sometimes we have to trust it, not just go through it, but trust it and understand you went through this for a reason, and you're here to impact other people's lives. So that's what I'm looking for. Yes, it, you know, it may look negative in some people, because I did hear comments saying, you know, you shouldn't be talking about that. You're, you know, putting the uniform down, or you're being disrespectful, or why didn't you step up and say anything when it happened to you, or those things. But at that moment when you're hurt and you're going through other things, you just handle it the best way you can. Mm-hmm. So I just think trusting the process and understand you did what was right for you. And I got to stay in my lane and have to understand what works for me and what worked for me. Mm-hmm. And just keep on fighting and being voice for others that are still active duty in the uniform. So I have no fear. If they pick me out today or tomorrow, it's fine. I'm going to tell my truth and make sure I help somebody else that's going through that same situation.
Awesome. And I think, you know, I was most worried about you, because I'm like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't get reprimanded, because you was very raw in your story. And again, you just never know how it's going to affect, you know, you, because you're in uniform every single day. And I didn't want any negative impact to happen. So I'm glad to know that you didn't get that. I know you shared with me that negative text message, but it seems you overcame it. And that's what we do as women veterans, right? We may be in the quicksand for a little bit, but we're able to get out of it. And so I applaud you for moving past that negativity, and you're here and you're talking to us today. Miss Portia, I see you down there, girl. You know, I had to leave you for the end before we start to wrap up and get messages and rapid fire. But your story continues to be, you know, within everyone's discussion here because of, you know, what you put out there in your interview. How has you know, what would you say was the most important thing that you wanted to get across in your interview?
I said it then and I'll say it now. It's okay not to be okay. You know, that's my it. That is my it, because everybody suffers mental health, whether we know it or not, whether you admit it or not. Life can be incredibly tough. And we're living through times that we've never lived before. Well, I think that's every day in the future. But I mean, as far as the pandemic and things like that, none of us were alive the last time things like this occurred. So all of the changing and the moving pieces, it's incredibly stressful. It's incredible. And sometimes we're not okay. And I'm very transparent with that, because sometimes to this day, I have moments where I'm like, okay, guys, guess what? Portia's not doing too well. I'm going to take a break and take a step back and focus on my mental health and really just heal myself, in this time. And I think that it's important that we all make that time. Yes, we're mothers. Yes, we're soldiers, or, sailors, or, Marines, or whatever it is that we are. And we're women, but first we are individuals, and just being able to take care of ourselves so that we can get back to being all of those things is just so important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we're going to go into rapid fire, and I think it's great that we start at the very top with Ms. Robin Fortner up there, and let her be the guinea pig to start off rapid fire. And then after rapid fire, we'll do closing messages by everyone. So while you're waiting, you can be thinking of your closing message as well, because you never know what this rapid fire is going to be.
I know.
All righty, Ms. Robin, here we go. Being one of 6 sergeant major females in the Marine Corps meant.
Okay, so being one of 6 African-American sergeant majors in the Marine Corps meant uniqueness. It meant responsibility, I believe, more than anything else is the responsibility piece. I told people about 10 years ago, I didn't stay past 20 years for me. I just didn't. I could have easily got out. I stayed past 20 years, absolutely, for everyone else to come behind me. So being one of 6, it's an honor, but it's also unfortunate at the same time, because you want to continue to break down those barriers and take my chisel, continue to break that down. So it's been a huge burden, a large responsibility that I gladly wore. Don't get me wrong, gladly will wear it again. But I think at the same time, it's been satisfying knowing that I was able to make it this far and represent for everybody who comes behind me.
Being a mentor outside of the uniform is
gratifying. It's everything. It's my purpose. It's absolutely my purpose. It's what I know that I am put here for. When you talk about the process or talk about what God put me here for, I know for a fact that's it. It's not just leading, it's also mentoring. There's so much that I didn't know growing up, or there's so much that I didn't know as I proceeded in my career. So I'm all about each one, teach one. They know that's my mantra. Each one, teach one. Whatever I know, I'm sharing. Whatever I know, I'm always saying, whenever you leave, look down. And if you don't have 5, 6, 7 hands grabbing onto you, pulling up, get another one. So each one, teach one is for me. Being a mentor is gratifying. It is my purpose in life.
awesome. All right, Ms. Denitra, you're up. Telling stories gives you
the opportunity to share another person's story. I think in the work that I do, I have learned that when you share a story, you also learn from that story. And I'm always a student. So storytelling is impactful because it encourages people to also tell their stories. And when you continue to build a chain like that, it heals people. So telling stories is healing, but it also is impactful. And it creates this pipeline of just really, story after story is about healing.
If I had to weave a quilt to showcase our pedigree, it will include
honor, courage, and commitment. And one other thing, storytelling.
Very good, very good. Erin, you are up. My wheelchair is symbolic of my Okay, I'll go to somebody else while you work on that. Okay, Miss Portia, I see you over there. You're ready to spit your little fire here. If you could have $1 million and you had one act of kindness that you had to do with your first $1,000 of that 1 million, what would you do with it? Just $1,000.
I would train as many people as I can in suicide intervention skills.
I knew you were going to say that. And what does suicide intervention mean to you?
How to have a conversation to save a life. Yeah.
Yep. Lakedra, you're up next.
Oh no.
Hopelessness and suicide changed my life by.
Ooh, hopelessness and suicide changed my life by. Giving me the faith to keep moving. Yeah, I think that it pushed me to do that, keep me moving, knowing that I can help other people. Yeah.
Okay. My drive to be a better mother comes from.
Woo! Why didn't I get the other questions? Wow. I guess from my faith. It comes from me knowing that I've overcame so much and I can give it to my children now. Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
you did good. You did good. You always get. And all of these questions come from your story. So I know in your story, Lakedra, you talked about your son, and you were feeling a kind of way about being a mother to both of them, and so that's why I brought that up, so the audience will know you are still working on that and wanting to be the best mother that you can. All right. How are you up there? No. So.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I swear I didn't touch anything. Okay. So the question was, my wheelchair represents my ability to survive. I mean, that's, people act like the wheelchair is the problem. The wheelchair is what allows me to live my life. It's what allows me to get around. So it's just my external representation of my ability to survive and move forward.
And we're going to start with you now before we run out. I can't hear you again. What's your closing message to women veterans?
I guess, so my closing message would be, support other women. We're all that each other have in a lot of situations. Hold other women up, bring them to the table. And if you have a place of privilege and you have a voice, make sure you move aside and bring up any, your sisters that wouldn't have access to that table if you didn't help them get there.
Awesome. Thank you. Ms. Lakedra, I know you got to go. We're going to go ahead and get your message before you have to go, dear. What's your message to women veterans?
Well, my message is just don't be afraid to share your story. Don't be afraid to empower other women and hold them close to you. Don't be afraid. We need that. So that will be my message. Don't be afraid to take care of each other.
Okay. Ms. Denitra, what would be your message to women veterans?
Trust the process. Trust the process, because it's your kryptonite. Your kryptonite. And if you can truly embrace that and start to operate out of that, you're going to find that life is going to be much kinder to you. And I hope that everyone on this panel and everyone that's listening can kind of figure out where they are right now, whatever process they're in, and it can be anything. Just own that process. Get the lesson, and then figure out what you need to do with that, because the next best thing is waiting for you.
Awesome. Ms. Robin, message to women veterans, ma'am.
Yeah, so, I always talk about my CPR. I think, again, my entire time. And for those that don't know, C is for confidence. So we talk about women veterans constantly instilling confidence. P can be many things, it could be purpose. In this case, I'm going to say purpose, because I really think it's important for us to always find our purpose, no matter where we are in that process. Let's find our purpose in that process. But I'm gonna leave you with resiliency. And I said it again, there's been a common thing of pushing through pain. So resiliency is always huge for me, being able to, no matter what comes our way, to be able to get up and continue, dust off. And we do that by many ways. One, trust in the process, but two, just like what everybody said, depending on each other, looking out for each other, building each other up, not tearing each other down. There's so much things that are already against us. Let's not be our own worst enemy. So I've always learned to, no matter what happens, finding that bright light in every situation. I'm reminded, and I'll end with Maya Angelou, which is my favorite poet, and it's on my social media as well, but her poem, Still I Rise. So again, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I rise.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. Portia, you get to follow that. I'm sorry.
I know. What do I say here, right? I wrote a couple of things down, right? 1, you're worth it. 2, take it one day at a time. 3, it's okay not to be okay. And your story could save a life. Support each other, as we are and as we're doing. Speaking of, I'm in the running for Miss Veteran America 2020. I'm a finalist. So I would love to be able to support anybody in any way that I can. And I would love my sister's support.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to close by having each of you stay where you are right now. If you're writing a book, if there's another film, if you're having these speaking engagements, just come on and just tell us what you're doing, and we'll close on that. Robin, you want to start? Anything upcoming for you?
Sure. Again, you heard me say, after the ceremony, I'm just concentrating on me just a little bit. I've always had a dream of speaking, empowerment, things like that. So my handles are out there at RC Fortner, but I also have a website, www.rcfortner.com. It's up and coming. We're coming out with podcasts. We're coming out with a book about stories. So trust me, I'm going to be hitting y'all up, but it's a leadership book. So definitely looking into building the brand to do just that, empower women vets, but at the same time be mentors at the same time. Not just to women as well, though. I think, again, I'm a leader of Marines. I always say that I'm not just that. It's who I am. So I love my brothers just as much, y'all. That's just me. And I've always done that. So I have a thing called who's motivating the motivators, so as I think even leaders need to be motivated and mentored at the same time as well. So lots to see in the next coming, who knows, months, years, we'll see. But right now I'm just kind of trusting the process again. I don't know, but I do have a lot out there already starting to come into fruition. So.
Well, I wish you nothing but the best, Robin. And again, thank you for coming on. I saw your retirement ceremony. I was crying in the car. I stopped on the side of the road. I'm like, this is it. I got to see and watch Robin's retirement. And I applaud you for 30 years. And thanks for representing us. And I know you're going to do great things out here. If you ever need us, you need me, and vets, whatever, I'll always be here for you. And I'm just so proud of you and what you've done. You make me feel like I'm the proud woman veteran that I am, seeing and hearing the accomplishment that you did at your retirement ceremony. I was like, I knew her a little bit, but now I know her a lot. Yeah. And it really made me hold my head up higher, and you made me stand taller. And I'm gonna stop before I start crying, but it really impacted me that much, because it's something about us as women veterans. When we don't see people like you, we don't know we're capable of it. And you made me feel like I'm capable of any and everything.
Yeah, thank you,
In 30 years, I knew I could have probably done 7 more had you been in my corner. I didn't have someone like you in my corner. And I could have done 7 more years to do 30. But I'm proud of you and what you've done.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. Thank you very, very much. I definitely need you. I need all of you still, right? And we just talked about that. So not saying goodbye at all. This is definitely a sisterhood that you started, and I think, just if I could speak for everybody, I think there's something we all are on board with, of helping each other out, no matter what that is, even if it's just the ear. So thank you, Charissa. I'm so proud to be in your corner, but also more proud to be at your table. Thank you, sister.
Oh, wonderful. Miss Erin, you're up next, dear.
Baby. Oh, yeah, it works. It's fantastic. I'm contributing a chapter to a friend's book. He is retiring as a police officer, but it's basically about men getting help along the way. Especially we've seen what happened with with George Floyd and so many unarmed Black men, that continues to happen. And it's a really cool project that I'm really excited about, because he had a great point. He said most guys or women go in to be a police officer to want to hurt someone, right? How do they get to that point? And it's institutionalized things, it's exposure, it's people's inability or unwillingness to get help along the way. And so I think that's a really positive thing that he's focused on. So I'm going to tell a little piece of my story about what I went through. Still trying to write a book. It's so hard. It's so hard. You sit there. I know I just need to write and get it out. But I'm working on it. And that's really all I have going on.
That's a lot. And I appreciate what you're doing, because you keep moving. You're not one of these people that's going to sit still. And so I see the work that you're doing, and I'm glad to see the other stuff that's coming out. And as I always tell you, I'm here if you need anything. Let's go get it. Let's make it happen.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome, dear. Denitra, what's up for you? What's next for you?
Well, this weekend is the world premiere of my Year of the Nurse and Midwife film. This is my second documentary. And I say world premiere because the World Health Organization is in this film, and it's sold out 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and everyone around the world is going to be tuned into this film. I'm very excited about it because it is only my second film, and I could never imagine that we would have this many people watching the film. It's done fantastic. Everybody knows, if you didn't know, 2020 is the Year of the Nurse and Midwife. And so Denitra Hampton did this film that gives honor to, Florence Nightingale, but we also made it a cultural phenomenon because we brought in Hampton University, Chi Eta Phi, one of the oldest African-American nursing sororities. And we just gave homage to, the African-Americans who have contributed to nursing and to science and to medicine. So that makes this narrative a little different about the Year of the Nurse and Midwife. But that's the big thing for me this weekend. But then, of course, the production company is moving forward with filmmaking when it comes to nursing and science and global equity. So that's what we got going on.
Awesome. And I'm sure more things in the future are gonna come to you, because you just exude so much positivity, and I believe that the universe is gonna bring so many great things to you. And we're gonna stay connected.
Yeah, I'm gonna come get all y'all and put y'all in my documentary, because we have Dr. Lenore Langley's. She is the first African-American to receive a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
And she's in this documentary. So, if you get a chance to see it, you want to check out her story. She's powerful. And I tell you, it was an honor to see her. But all of you all are fantastic. So keep doing what you're doing. And I love you all with the love of God and the love of the veteranship that we have here. This is a connection. I truly believe that you all have something so very special. And I'm so very honored to meet all of you. I'm so glad that God has crossed our paths. And trust me, I do not take that lightly. I truly believe in connection. And so I'm looking at all of your faces right now, trying to just figure out, what is this moment for? So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Denitra. Lakidra, what's going on with you? What's going on?
So I've done a few mentoring events for young ladies, which I'm never thought I would ever do. So I'm enjoying that time. I've also been asked to be a part of a Veterans to Industry to talk about sexual MST. So they put me over that program. So I'm excited about that. And just right now, like Robin is going through, just transitioning, what am I do? What's my next step? What's my purpose? Because remember I said on the interview, from my pain came my purpose, right? So now I'm trying to just figure how to tie everything up and just do the best thing I can do. Also, I started a brand, Key Fit, which is Knowledge, Empowerment, Unity. And it talks about mental health and as well as physical health. So also doing the same things Portia doing, going and talking about suicide awareness and making sure while we're in that uniform, we get the help that we need before it's too late.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I know you and I will stay connected. And if there's anything I can do for you, I'll always be here for you. Last but not least, Ms. Portia, close us out. What's going on with you besides the Miss Veterans pageant?
Oh yes, absolutely. Look, I was just saying, I made it to finals, right? Out of a lot of women, they selected 25. 25 to make it to the final. So we just wrapped up filming for the finale. We're raising money. All proceeds and things like that are raised or go towards housing homeless women, veteran, and their children. A lot of time when women veteran fall homeless, they will get the help for the women veteran, but they don't really have help for their children. So Final Salute does that. So I've been advocating for that. Between that, it's almost Suicide Prevention Month. So everybody know I'm about to go hard every day, you know, and just putting it out there and normalizing having ideations and normalizing therapy and normalizing seeking mental health help, especially, you know, in our communities that lack those type of resources and or knowledge. And you know, just focusing on those two. That's my thing right now. So, you know, yeah.
I know.
Who's sponsoring the pageant? Who's the sponsor?
So Final Salute is the parent organization. Mm-hmm. Yep. Miss Jazz Booth. And we're having different sponsors. People are bringing the contestants. We're bringing on different sponsors to be able to sponsor the pageant. But it's going to be 100% virtual this year because of the COVID. So it has been an experience for sure, trying to get videographers and everything and do everything virtually as opposed to being in person. But it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And the work that's being done is amazing. Like, I just love to see that support for us, because there's so much support for the men because they make up so much of the military. But, you know, we've kind of been the forgotten about population of women veterans. And so just being able to be there.
Finding out about it and supporting it and then watching it. So that's why I was asking, you know, who is, you know, funding or, you know, who's doing the pageant. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Portia. And I know we are trying to work our partnership out for suicide prevention. Just to give you a heads up, we are into version 2 of our suicide online prevention training. I was able to score a $20,000 grant from the Christopher Reeves Foundation. So we had a talk on Monday with the developers of the online training to do version 2, which includes one of your scenarios. So I'm super duper, and thank you for your contribution to that online training. And I got a big announcement for all you guys, since you guys are here. I'm not sure if I told you guys, but season 1 was such a huge success. And when I changed platforms, you know, I just had to trust it was the right thing to do. And I'm glad that I did, because halfway through season 1, HBCU TV network has decided to pick up my show. So starting with season 2, it will be on Fire Stick, it'll be on Roku, it'll be on Spotify, you name it. So that will give us an even bigger platform to have our stories be heard across the nation. And so I couldn't be here without you guys. And I just want to make sure that I say that and everyone gets to hear. It was because you guys trusted me, again, getting all teary-eyed. You guys trusted me that I'm here and this has happened, and I trusted the process, and I tried not to do more, didn't do more than I needed to do, and still sitting here waiting for that next big thing, and this opportunity came. So I think Denitra actually talked it into existence by telling me to set my little butt still, and I did, and this opportunity has come. So
you're the best. You're the best at this.
Yes.
So
Yeah, congratulations.
when you go over there, they're gonna know what they got.
I appreciate that. I wouldn't be here without you guys and you guys being open and vulnerable to me. So with that being said, please continue to watch the show. Season 2 is going to be even more fire than season 1. If you want to watch all 10 of the episodes, you can surely go to my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Sharissa Jackson, or you can go to Amvets and watch all of the stories there as well. Continue to follow me, continue to support the show. I appreciate you all. Thank you all so much. God bless, be safe, take care.
All right.